Welcome back to another episode of Cookie's Fishroom. My name is Norm for those who don't know me, and for those who do, welcome back. Thank you once again for tuning in. I hope everybody out there, wherever you are in this world, is feeling good. And if you're not, please look after yourselves and get better if you're unwell. So today I am going to just have a general chat to you about the hobby and what it means to me, and why I think it's worth sticking to it. Sometimes this hobby can get draining. You go into it and with the mindset of it being easy, a fishbowl, a fish in it, water changes, feed it, and that's the end of it. Nobody tells you about it, the hard things that come along with it, the diseases, water testing, the lights involved, the what I called MTS, multi-tank syndrome, that comes with it down the path, and other things like plants and the need to breed if you have guppies and endlers and mollies and platies. It's a hobby that can consume you, and it can consume a lot of your time. And people go into the hobbies for this hobby for different reasons. So I was brought up, personally around fish my whole life. My grandfather always had tanks, my mum, and it became work for me, and it became a natural part of my life. And more importantly for me, it was an escape from all the stress in this real world. I suffer from a chronic disease called Crohn's disease, and with Crohn's disease, it affects your mental health a lot. So you suffer with depression, anxiety, and you don't always feel great, as you would know. So this has allowed me to have something to look forward to, escape from all the stress of this real world. And I'm not saying this real world is no good. I love my family, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you do need to retreat, just to get away from the things that don't make you feel well on a daily basis. So when you walk into Petsmart and Petco in the US, I think, anywhere over here in Australia, and they always have these tanks in bays along the walls with your goldfish, your guppies, and fighter fish, etc., mixed in ways it shouldn't be most of the time. And the attendants will come up to you and try to make that sale. They never tell you. They always say, if you ask them what's an easy fish to keep, they go guppies, goldfish, etc., and say you'll just need this little tank here with a heater and you'll be fine. They never explain to you about the need to add salt, the need to have medications on hand, quarantine processes, the right lights for the plants that the fish need, and it gets stressful for some, and I knew all the stresses because of what I've seen mum and grandfather and what I was educated about. I knew what was involved, but I talked to a lot of people on a daily basis, and they went into the hobby, with blinkers on, thinking and being told that yes, guppies are easy. They're an easy fish. You just needed a heater, a 5-gallon tank, and a light, and you're done. It's not that simple, as we know, but it is worth sticking to when the going gets tough. These fish aren't always just about, for some it is about winning competitions, the best tail shape, the brightest colors, or the newest strains, the prettiest patterns. For some, it is about that, and that's what excites them, and good on them. And it's great for me to see people, get the hobby out there through competitions and things like that. I've got no issues with it. I applaud them for the effort that it takes to breed these fish with the right genetics. It's not easy at all. This is coming from somebody who tries to breed 2 guppies together just to get one baby and finds it difficult after all these years still. But, it's about the processes involved with looking after the fish, the time it takes, the consuming of time with water changes, with, building up a nice planted tank and, trimming the plants and adding ferts and trying to work out why these plants aren't working, what sort of lights are real, getting on the forums and reading it. That people might take as a negative, but in fact, it's a positive thing. It's taking you away from, the stresses in the real life. It's giving you something additional to do. I speak to a lot of people who do have depression issues, who don't want to, deal with what's going on around them. They don't realize that, dealing with some of the things in the aquarium hobby does actually take your mind off the negative things in the real world. They complain to me and they go, oh, I spend so much time, water changes sometimes every day, depending on how many tanks they have, or trying to work out what's wrong with my fish. They're always sick, they've always got this disease, that disease. But once you get everything in place, once you have that structure of quarantine, hospital tank, some people have a showpiece tank, and I tend to set my setup like that. So in my garage, you will have, the quarantine process, the hospital tank, and the couple of breeding tanks. In my house, in the lounge, in the family room, I have 2 tanks. One for my, I'm trying to work on a blue Moscow strain, which I just had some fry, and my blue mutt tank, which has just about everything that's blue goes in there and produces gorgeous blue babies. Both those tanks are planted. Outside I have a mutt pond, as you guys know, and inside the hallway I have Bumblebee, who's my awesome fighter fish / beta from one of my besties, Sadie. Thank you very much, and Jennifer for helping her. That's all I have, and that surprises people, but that's all I can manage with this disease. It's all the time I have on my hands. I want to spend more of my time helping people overcome their issues with their tanks to make this hobby an enjoyable one. And it is an enjoyable one once you get that structure all set up. It's worth all that effort to have structure set up, to work out why your fish are dying or why your fish are sick. And 95% of the time, it's something in your process that you've left out, or you've been buying from the wrong stock from the wrong place, or you're not using the right foods or the right meds. And once you've worked out those little speed bumps, you do have a really fruitful and enjoying hobby. You can get emotionally close to some of these fish. I had a pet flower horn for over 3 years, and unfortunately I had to give it away because of my circumstances at the time. But he was in a tank that was in my bedroom, and every morning he knew what time the lights would come on, he knew what time feeding was. If I was 5 minutes late, I'd get knocks on the glass. While you're late, he'd ram the glass until I feed him. And the same thing goes for my Yabby. In my son's room, his name is Pinchy, and he got his name not through The Simpsons, as most people think. If you haven't seen the episode where Homer tries to grow a lobster, watch it, it's a cracker. But yeah, I nearly lost one of my fingers to Pinchy. And that's how he got his name when he was small. He is now 18.5 centimeters and a big guy. But when me and my son were in his room and we're sitting down trying to work on his homework or something, he will tap on the tank and say, hey, pay me attention. He'll grab a rock and knock. We have knock, knock, knock. These fish have personalities. These fish give us, companionship for some people who are stuck inside a hospital room over a long period of time, and that includes me. You can have a small 5-gallon tank and have a fighter fish in it. It does provide the companionship. Elderly people in homes, it is a source of enjoyment for multiple children and people out there. So the way it works for me, it takes my stress away. It makes me smile seeing, fry being born. There are hard days when my plants are dying and I all of a sudden have a columnaris outbreak, and I think to myself, I quarantined all my fish. Why am I getting a columnaris outbreak? There are frustrating times that come along, and you have deaths that are unexpected, but it's all worth it. Don't lose hope. Look at the positive side of things. If it's getting too expensive, downsize. It's not for everybody. It is an expensive hobby. Find cheaper methods of, of keeping the fish. Maybe get a smaller tank, have one fish instead of, 10. Food's expensive to use good quality foods, your electricity bill does suffer sometimes. So you have to be realistic about things, but don't always get stuck on the negatives. Look at the positives, look what it does for you. Remember why you got into this hobby in the first place. And I've spoken to a lot of friends lately, and some people say to me, look, I'm done with this hobby. I'm the only one who looks after the fish in my house, but you've got to remember, the hobby isn't for everybody. Everyone in the house may love the fish, but at the end of the day, it's you who want the fish. So it is your responsibility. And don't slack off on, the water changes and the feeding and all that, because at the end of the day, it's only the fish that suffer. And, they pay the price for our laziness. So keep that in mind. That's my little spill and my little short story about me, what the hobby means to me. And, I get frustrated at times, and I have to sit back and remember why do I have fish? Why am I doing all this? And hopefully that answers the question some people have asked me about how come I don't have a fish room per se, even though this is called Cookie's Fish Room. One day I will reveal the reason for the name on one of these videos, and I won't say which one. You'll have to watch to find out. But that's my reasons for I have a limited amount of tanks, because I'd rather spend 90% of my day helping you guys out and fix your problems and seeing the joy being spread, having these fish everywhere, than me trying to have as many tanks as possible, apart from the other half killing me. That's my reasons for doing what I do and how I do. So hopefully you guys can see it from a different perspective. If you're thinking about giving up on the hobby, or if you're getting frustrated at the moment because things never seem to go right, maybe change the type of fish you have. Maybe change your setup. Look at a different breeder. Look at a different seller. Don't go buy from the big, chain stores, and implement a quarantine process. Spend a little bit of money on your setup. And by that, I mean, have a quarantine tank, have a hospital tank. And again, watch the videos below about that. You do not need tanks per se. You can use a bucket for your quarantine process or hospital tank. Just have the means necessary there ready to go in case you need it, and the right medications. Be prepared. Things don't always go right, but remember, when they do, it's worth it, just to see those fish swim around happy. You can lie down and escape reality and enjoy yourself. Thanks again for tuning in. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Thank you for those who subscribe, and if you haven't yet, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. Thanks again. Keep smiling. I'll talk to you next week. Bye for now.